Eric and the Legion Episode 3, or The Legion of Superheroes is currently undergoing an ageism lawsuit. Hi, and welcome back to Eric and the Legion. Today's story is Action Comics number 267, entitled The Three Superheroes, written by Jerry Siegel, with art by Jim Mooney. We start our story with the splash panel in which Supergirl, aka Linda Lee, is landing in a forest, and she says, "I thought my existence on Earth was a deep secret, but you kids with superpowers seem to know all about me. Who are you?" And they say, "The time has arrived for you to learn the answer, Linda Lee, aka Supergirl." Now, if you don't know, Supergirl is Clark Kent's cousin from Krypton, and she goes by the alias Linda Lee. So we start with some school buses that are about to go over a drawbridge, and there's an ocean liner that's about to pass the drawbridge as well, and the drawbridge is going to have to raise so the boat can get through. And the kids on the bus are pretty excited. They're like, "Wow, we get to see the drawbridge raise up." But the bus driver turns around and says, "Oh, that's too bad. You're going to miss seeing Superman at the Superman fair." And all the kids are actually really bummed now. So Linda Lee opens up the back door of the bus and jumps out and changes into her secret identity of Supergirl by taking off her wig and her clothes to reveal her Supergirl outfit underneath. She dives into the river, grabs the bottom of the boat, and pulls it down to where the deck is just barely above the surface of the water. She pushes the boat underneath the drawbridge and then lets go of it so it can raise back up to its original elevation on the water. She lands on the shore and shakes herself off by like moving her body really fast. And it is the goofiest looking panel. There's like 3 Supergirls all at once, so to show motion, and it looks really funny. It almost looks like she's a Siamese twin, but like a Siamese triplet, I guess. So she gets back into her Linda Lee costume and gets back on the bus, and the bus driver says, "Well, good news, we're going to be able to make it after all. The drawbridge didn't have to raise." And everyone is really excited, and they arrive at the Superman fair, and they see a model of the planet Krypton, a giant Superman statue, a model of the Fortress of Solitude, and they see Superman standing on a stage being shot by these 2 Tesla coils that shoot electricity at him, and he says, "Billions of volts of electricity are passing through my body, which is enough to destroy any living thing." And everyone's really impressed. They're like, "Wow, he can take it." And then suddenly he flies off and says goodbye to everybody and winks at Linda Lee because he knows that Linda Lee is Supergirl. However, the controls of the machine are jammed, causing electricity to shoot dangerously into the fair. Now, my guess would be that they would turn the electricity off before Superman just flew away, but I guess Superman has something better to do with this time, so he didn't have time to stick around. But we see Linda freaked out. She's like, "Oh no, I've got to do something, but if I don't have any space to turn into Supergirl, and everyone's going to know that I am Supergirl if I do something." But we see a boy with red hair shoot the controls of the machine with electricity, and he whispers, "Let me handle this, Supergirl," which is weird because she's in her normal identity. Then the boy with the red hair says, "See, it wasn't necessary for you to give away your identity." And she's really confused. How does he know who I am? And he says, "You'll find out later. So long for now," and then he runs away. And then we see Linda walking through the fair, and she's watching a lion exhibit, and the lion breaks out of the exhibit, and it's coming right for Linda Lee, and she's worried because she's invulnerable, and people are going to see when the lion mauls her that she's not hurt by this. However, we see a girl with blonde hair standing off in the distance, and the lion turns around and walks back into its cage. And Linda Lee overhears with her super hearing that the girl is whispering, "Calm down, enter your cage." And she approaches the girl with blonde hair And the girl with blonde hair whispers, "Your secret identity is still safe with us, Supergirl." And she's shocked again. How does she know who she is? And she says, "You'll find out later." And then runs away as well. So Linda's a little freaked out, but she goes on a Kryptonian rocket ship ride, which is one of those Dumbo type rides, except it's held there just by these thin ropes, and it's spinning her around, but the line snaps, and she's freaked out. She's like, when this rocket crashes, I'm not going to be hurt, and everyone's going to know that I'm Supergirl. But we see a boy, we see the rocket's trajectory change and land on a bunch of hay bales. And he approaches Linda and says, "I had to act fast so your secret identity wouldn't be exposed, Supergirl." And she says, "3 people know my secret identity. Superman's going to be really upset with me." And she asks the boy, "How do you know who I am?" And he says, "You'll find out at the proper time. See you soon." And he runs off as well. So we see Linda again at the orphanage where she lives. And she's thinking to herself that Superman would be super frustrated that everyone knows her secret identity now. And she's looking out the window and she sees a tractor about to destroy the tree in which she keeps a Linda Lee robot that she puts to act as Linda Lee while she does things as Supergirl. And she's worried because if this tractor hits this tree, these boys playing baseball nearby are going to find out that Linda Lee is Supergirl. But we see the tractor hit the tree, and it's not a hollow tree anymore. It's just a regular tree. And she glances around the forest to find another tree actually has the Linda Lee robot inside. And we see her change into Supergirl and fly to the tree. And standing at the tree are the 3 people that she saw at the fair that knew her secret identity. They are the Legion of Superheroes. And she says, "How do you know who I am?" And they say, "We're the Legion of Superheroes from the future." And Supergirl remembers, "Oh yeah, Superman told me all about these 3 teenagers who came from the future and invited him to join a club." And she says, "Wait, you invited Superboy to join the club? You must be Cosmic Boy, Saturn Girl, and Lightning Lad." And they say, "We are, but not the ones that Superboy knew. We have the same names. We're their children, and we took their superhero identities in their place." And they said, "We want you to come into the future and join our club." And Supergirl is really excited, and they say, "However, we have some rules. You have to compete to get into the club, and you have to be under the age of 18. But she says, "I would love the opportunity to try out." So they invite her to go into the time bubble, to go into the future, but she says that she wants to fly using her own powers into the future. And when they arrive in the future, we see a panel that's almost identical to the one that we saw in the first issue with Superboy of Metropolis in the future, except this one has a little bit more detail. This time we see robots, instead of picking up trash on the side of the road, we see them building skyscrapers, doing construction work. We see another one of those tours, but instead of around the world in 80 minutes, we see an interplanetary tour, which says that you can get away from it all, and it takes you out of this world. They also stop at the same ice cream parlor, which has 9 delicious flavors from 9 planets. But Supergirl has more self-control than Superboy and doesn't make a stupid joke about out-of-this-world ice cream. So they arrive at the Legion of Superheroes clubhouse, and we see her competitors. We see that she's going to be competing against Chameleon Boy, who has super disguise, Colossal Boy, who has super growth, and Invisible Kid, who has, as you guessed it, invisibility powers. So we see them all trying out their powers in front of the clubhouse. Colossal Boy grows super large and picks up one of the other Legionnaires. We see that Supergirl has bumped into Invisible Kid while he was invisible. And we see Chameleon Boy turn into a tree and talk to the Legionnaires as a tree. And Supergirl says, "Wow, they've got such great powers." And they say, "Yeah, but only one applicant is approved every year." And Supergirl asks, "What is the primary method of travel in the future?" And they say, "Oh, everyone flies by jetcraft, by spaceship in orbit around the Earth." And she says, "I've got the perfect idea." So she goes and she digs a huge tunnel through the Earth, but not too close to the core of the Earth. It's kind of off-center a little bit, so that when spaceships pass through it, they won't be burned by the intense heat of the Earth's core. And she lands back and she says, "Now all the traffic can go through the shortcut which will reduce the orbit traffic around the Earth. They say, well, we accepted somebody else. You're over the age limit. And she says, no, I'm not. I'm only 15 years old. And she looks at her reflection and sees that she's become Superwoman. Now, after that, of course, she sues the Legion for ageism, and they have to pay gross sums of money in order to repair the damages caused. Just kidding. They don't actually do that. But we see that Supergirl has looked around the Earth and found that in the tunnel there was some red krypton which affects Kryptonians randomly, and this time it has aged her from a girl into a woman. And they say, well, sorry, that it's our rules that you have to be a teenager. Maybe when you're a teenager again, you can join our club next year. So she goes back in time and she lands back in Smallville, and she's feeling really upset that she wasn't accepted into the Legion. But we see an hour later that the effects of the red krypton have worn off, and she's Supergirl again, and she's pretty happy. She turns back into Linda Lee, but thinks to herself that she really wanted to join the Legion of Superheroes, and wonders if she'll ever get a chance to become a member. I think that she will. Okay, that's it for this issue. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.